to build great generative AI native products, you need conviction in the thing you're building. The reason I love technology is because that's how we progress. That's how we get more things done. That's how we solve problems.
Welcome to Building with AI, the show where we engage in conversations with world-class business leaders in AI. Our goal is to uncover tactical advice to help you build and scale better AI products. I'm your host, Haroon Choudery, and today I have the pleasure of being here with Paul Yacoubian, founder and CEO of Copy.ai, an AI-driven platform designed to help marketing teams by quickly generating targeted sales copy, streamlining content creation, and enhancing their go-to-market strategy. During our conversation, Paul shares his journey from developing 5 MVPs in 90 days, the 5th being Copy.ai, which evolved from a tagline generator to a platform with over 10 million users. Before we dig in, here's a quick word from our sponsors.
Today's episode is brought to you by Autoblocks, the AI optimization platform product teams use to create world-class AI experiences. So, you just launched V0 of your AI feature or product. What's next? Autoblocks unlocks an intuitive yet powerful optimization workflow that helps you continuously understand, improve, differentiate your AI-powered products. Understand how your users interact with your product by connecting user activity to what's happening under the hood of your application. Improve your product thoughtfully and iteratively. Integrate testing of your AI products into your CI workflow and run A/B tests to see what changes are driving great user outcomes. Differentiate your AI products with powerful fine-tuning workflow that lets you turn product usage data into training data. Get started with Autoblocks for free at autoblocks.ai. Now, back to the episode. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I've been following Copy.ai for quite some time. You're one of the more well-known Gen AI products and obviously have grown tremendously over the past year especially. And so excited to dig in and learn more about the story behind the company. But to kick off, for anybody who doesn't know about Copy.ai, do you mind maybe giving an introduction of yourself and the journey leading up to the company and what the company is?
Sure. So I'm Paul, founder and CEO of Copy.ai. We got started building AI products back in July of 2020 when OpenAI launched GPT-3 into beta access. And before that, my co-founder and I were doing venture capital, and we were looking for really the next big tech wave to hit. And we had a ton of ideas that we were thinking would be solvable at some point in time. And when we saw first demos of GPT-2, 6 months later, GPT-3 arrives. It's 100 times the size. We built 5 MVPs in 90 days. And the 5th one was Copy.ai. And what we're really trying to understand those use cases. And that helped us scale as a product-led growth company, past 10 million users now.
Awesome. Do you mind describing the journey that the product took? What was the product initially? How did it grow over time? Where are you at today?
The 4th MVP we did was called taglines.ai. And it was a tagline generator. So all we did was generate a slogan or a tagline or a title, piece of title text. And it turns out they're using it for all kinds of different content. Some people are using it to write email, like email title lines. Some people are using it for their presentations. Other people were using it to write blog posts. And so one of the insights there was that this is a very horizontal technology. Best practices in the venture world is you build verticalized products that go very narrow. If you just step back 5 years ago, the idea that this stuff is even possible would be, no one would believe it. And so when you start thinking through the product and your roadmap, you have to be betting on some of these tailwinds. So a few of the tailwinds, number one was cost per token. So the cost to generate something with the models, we knew that would fall pretty rapidly. That means that you can do these more complex use cases in the future and not have it totally crush your costs. And then the second thing was that it would allow you to provide it with more context and more inputs into your generations. And the reason why that matters is that it greatly expands the number of use cases that you can do. And it also puts more of the output quality on the inputs and less on the models. One of the big drawbacks for the model is so great because it's compressed the world's knowledge from the internet into a very tiny package. But the problem is with that compression now, if it doesn't know the answer, it may act confidently like it does. We've already moved out of I call the co-pilot era. And I think a lot of companies are just now getting to the co-pilot era. But that, again, doesn't really help you scale a business. the reason I love technology is because that's how we progress. That's how we get more things done. That's how we solve problems at a very core level. And so without any kind of technological progress, we're just going to look at the same problems not getting solved. And I think it leads to a lot of social dissatisfaction. Hey man, did we have this problem 30 years ago, 50 years ago? Like, when are we going to solve it, right? And technology is an exciting thing because you can see all the possibilities. To build great generative AI native products, you need conviction in the thing you're building. Our job as an innovator in the space is to, one, understand as deeply as possible the capabilities, directly connect that to use cases that are valuable to businesses and users.
Awesome. Yeah, very insightful. What are you specifically working towards at Copy.ai?
It's a great question. In the old days, if you had the most number of employees, you won. So it's Walmart had the most number of employees, they were the biggest company and the most sales, all that. And the next phase with computers, it was more about how many servers do we have? Do we have all the servers? Do we have all the compute? Because servers are more efficient now than people. And Amazon won that. Amazon did really well, right? And then Apple said, let's forget servers. What about like how many devices are out there in the world collecting data, collecting information, bridging that communication between the internet and people? In this next phase, it's really about intelligence itself. So if you think about the usage problem, usage is, hey, I need intelligence to help me solve this use case or this problem or make this business decision. So I think for companies, you're trying to figure out how do we maximize the amount of intelligence that our system is able to take into account to improve itself. And I think a lot of companies in certain aspects are going to be caught way flat-footed. They've still got a lot of old systems in place.
Totally. And so where does Copy.ai fit into this entire picture? This future where companies are AI driven, they have systems that are working and improving over time. What are you helping with right now in facilitating that, and future state as well, the direction you're headed in?
Good question. So now all you have to do is describe the workflow that you want, and our system will configure that for you. As we add more capabilities to it, the entire platform actually has now a path towards a self-configuration system where you're now able to connect your data sources into it. And then over time, the recommendations get better and better. Even in our platform, we generate prompts. And prompts are like that last line of configuration needed to actually get you to something that you can deploy at a high trust level. So as it turns out, this is a solvable problem, which I don't think anyone really appreciates enough. And so in a world where workflows are now configuring themselves and adding value themselves, that's one heck of a platform.
Awesome. So as we wrap up, I'm curious, what does it take for Copy.ai to win? You were one of the first companies to start building a Gen AI copywriting business, which has evolved into something much, much more. You're automating entire workflows. Now, other companies are gonna start looking at this as well. There's some other folks that are maybe also competing in the space already. What does it take for Copy.ai to win and capitalize on its position as being one of the first folks, one of the first entrants into this space?
Yeah, that's another great question. To me, it's number one, it's reducing the friction, the user friction for adopting use cases. Yeah, of course, that's product and engineering, but that's also marketing and sales. There are a ton of companies with amazing products. I'll hear about the product, see it, I'm like, this is awesome. And they've been around for 10 years. And I'm like, you didn't solve my problem the past nine and a half years. Where were you? That's a user problem. Being early to the market has given us a good amount of brand awareness, product awareness that we can capitalize. We've had competitors from day one. We'll have competitors forever. I don't think about competitors that much. Everybody sends me all the time. I'm like, that's great. They still haven't solved the problem.
Exactly. It's a big problem to solve. Yeah.
It's a big problem to solve, but like, till somebody solves it, I'm not interested in seeing another product that is just doing run-of-the-mill workflows and they bolt it on an LLM step. That's not solving the problem. It's connecting to an API. You are already doing that. The prompts are how you translate the model and to get it and trick it into doing something valuable for you. And then the way you set these workflows up, you trick it into doing something valuable for you. So it's very simple. I know IT folks, engineers out there, technical people that want it to be more complex than it actually is. It's not that hard. The more people that can use your product, the faster you'll grow. the more people aware of your product and understand how to use it and get the most value, it's a no-brainer. Solving those product problems is the very core of delivering user value. A lot of the tooling didn't exist when we started. There was no LLM ops type tooling, machine learning tools built for this. So we prototyped and built most of it in our own backend. And so in doing that, you get an 80% solution with a day or two of engineering effort. And I think over time, that's also going to be a great tailwind for us. There are a lot of great companies. They're going very deep into very specific problems that we have. And I'm excited about that too. I'm like, oh man, that's going to be great. Once they get to the point where it's incrementally valuable at our resource costs, that's going to be great. And so I look at this whole ecosystem, I'm like, man, it's going to be a fantastic ecosystem to be a part of. Now, my favorite partner has been OpenAI so far. They're the ones that had both the clarity of vision, the tenacity, and the willpower to try to solve this problem over a very long period of time without a lot of signal that it was possible. So that's also crazy. That doesn't happen a lot. Overall, I think there's still a lot of opportunity to be extremely ambitious about solving these kind of core product problems and how people get value out of large language models and how that pairs with existing platforms, existing systems, existing ways of doing things. Pretty much everybody we talk to, they are not interested most of the time in ripping out old processes and redoing them. The rip and replace, that's a very common go-to-market approach, which is more time intensive. The payoffs can be bigger if it's a big system that they're getting pulled out. But right now it's very much incremental, like, hey, we want to do this, we want to do this, we want to do this. And there's a natural flow that happens once you get into that rhythm as a company. And to see that happen is great because every new use case is like a whole new market that's forming on your platform. These are things that were never possible before. That certainly gets our team excited every day. Oh man, I didn't know that was possible. And then it is, and you're like, cool, one more thing to take to market, right? To share with people and let people know what's possible.
Love it. So last question for you, Paul. What's your vision for the future ahead for Copy.ai and maybe even more generally for the generative AI space?
Yeah, when we used GPT-2, it was a major unlock for our own creativity. It actually was making up stuff that we had never thought about before. And when you Google it, Google would show 0 search results. And so at that point, I was like, man, I am no longer short of ideas. I'm short on how to execute those productively at scale. Hundreds of startup ideas, basically the one that unlocks the most of them, the most number of those ideas, if we get the system to work. Like a business that builds itself from an idea and is shaped by the founder without needing a lot of resources, without needing a lot of capital, without massive teams, that's going to accelerate innovation more than anything else we've ever experienced in our lifetime. And so I think that's the ultimate vision. I think a lot of people share that vision. They might call it like a wish. Oh, I wish that was possible. But I think we have a pretty clear vision on how to make that actually happen. And I think people see the pieces of it, like when they use Copilot products and they ask it to do something and it can do it. And they're like, cool, let me ask the next thing and see if it can do it. And so I think for a lot of folks, the bottleneck is like, how do you put the pieces together in a way that actually makes sense? Most people, they don't know how to put the pieces together to streamline that whole approach. And I think that, to me, that a lot of that's just workflow. So how do I sequence all these things that I know I need to do? And if I do that in the right order, do I then unlock some value for a customer? And do I know how to reach customers? Do I know how to market the thing I just built? And I think most of those will be solved problems soon. And then what will be really valuable are these variant visions of the future that are better alternatives to the status quo vision of the future. I think if you turn on the news now, man, it's not exciting. You're not excited about the future when you turn on the news, right? So clearly that's not the future that you would spend your day obsessing over and thinking about, like your productive work hours, right? I think most people would say, no, that's not it. Now, what you have to avoid is saying that's inevitable, that it's always going to be like that. That's also dumb. That's a stupid way to live life. And you're probably going to be depressed if you live that way and not productive. So you won't accomplish anything. You won't get anything done. No one will want to hang out with you if you have that approach on life. However, you take the opposite approach, which is, hey man, we got all this awesome tech. Like, what are we gonna do with it? How should people live their lives? What should they be doing during the day? How do we make things, how do we solve some of these problems? We have all this incredible information. We have all this data. What's that look like? What do I want to do? What do I want my kids to do? Those are great questions to ask. I get great pleasure out of building something, side project that's just, that makes me smile. That gets my creativity going, and it also reinforces that positivity and an idea of all these possibilities. I think the future is going to be, we get a lot of people trying to build it, and those people are really optimistic and excited about what's possible.
Awesome. Paul, where can people find you, and where can people learn more about Copy.ai?
You can learn more about Copy.ai at Copy.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time, Paul.